Hi. I was about to say good morning, but it's actually good afternoon, isn't it? Welcome everyone on this sunny day where we're going to be talking about using Crowdfunder for charities. So just a quick intro, I guess. I think you were expecting Nicole today, but unfortunately she's not been able to make it, so I've stepped in instead. So hi, I'm Sammy, and we've also got Bertie here as well, who's we're going to be talking to today.
Hi, everyone.
Hi. So a quick bit of I guess housekeeping. So obviously we're coming to you from our homes, which means that comes with all of the fun of potentially some postmen knocking on the door. Maybe Bertie's young puppy will start nibbling on his foot. Anything.
Hopefully not. Still sore from the last one.
So anything could happen, so please do bear with us. We really appreciate your patience if any of that does happen. Similarly, if we have any tech issues, please do just hang on, and my internet does like to drop out every now and again, but it comes back on in a number of seconds. If anyone else is having issues with hearing or seeing us or anything on the tech side, best thing I can suggest is just refreshing your page, and that does tend to fix most of the issues. Final thing, we are going to send a link around after this, so if you miss any of it or if you want to rewatch, then we'll send a link around so you can do that after the fact. And finally, in case you were wondering, we can't see you, don't worry. We can't see you, you're the only people who can see us, so your camera is not on. So if you would like to ask us any questions or you want to chat with anyone else who's in the audience today, just pop it in the chat box. I can see a few of you have already found it. So hello Samantha, Georgina, Helen, Magda, Kate, Mary. Great to see we've got a few of you on board. So I guess we should probably kick off. So do you want to start, Bertie, just by giving us a little bit of an introduction?
Yeah, sure. Well, thanks everyone for joining us today. So crowdfunding, this is an alternative method of finance, something that we've probably seen a lot of over the last kind of 4 months in particular, but certainly over the last kind of 5 years that Crowdfunder UK has been in operation. So traditionally, people aren't that familiar with how it works. But as we're seeing in the press, whether it's to do with environment, whether it's campaigning, business, it's certainly something that's kind of featuring rather a lot. And that could be anything from those issues or a friend raising money by running a marathon. And today we're going to talk about specifically crowdfunding for charities and the different options that should you wish to crowdfund as a charity or for a charity, there are to get set up with us.
I think for me, it's one of the most interesting types of projects that we have through the door, because there are so many different options. And I know sometimes it can feel a bit overwhelming. There's all these different ways of raising money. You know, how do I know which is the right one for me? So we're just going to basically look at all the different options in turn today. We're going to look at options for, you know, an individual, you know, my next door neighbour, let's say, someone, you know, Bertie, who just wants to raise a bit of money for a charity. We'll look at options for charitable organisations and charities themselves, so the different options that you have with fundraising and with rewards-based crowdfunding as well. So let's kick off maybe just by having a little look at the options for fundraisers. So what we mean here is the average person who, you know, decides they want to raise a little bit of money for a charity, give something back, do some good, you know, the sponsored run, you know, the swimming the channel, or, you know, whatever those things are. So I'm just going to share my screen a moment and take you through what it looks like for them. The reason why this is so important for all of you charities as well, because it's really vital that you understand what options are there for people who want to raise money on your behalf. And if they come to you and say, oh, I'd like to, you know, do this or do that, that you're really clear on what the steps are for them, so that you can sort of point them in the right direction. So really easy, when you land on the Crowdfunder homepage, we just click straight through into charity. And as at the moment we're looking at an individual, you know, or a group, then we would click start a fundraiser there. So this next bit is really, really easy to use. It's a little search box where you type in the charity that you're looking to raise money for. So let's say my next door neighbour wants to raise, £100 for the NHS, for example. Very topical. Lots of people have been doing this recently. So I just type in NHS and it pops up there. The top result is the NHS Charities Together, which is the one I'm looking for. There are lots of other charities that come up that have got NHS in the title, so it might be there's more specific ones, but I want to go for the big main one here. So that's the one I click, and it tells me the registered charity number, and then it's a really simple process of just popping in how much I want to raise. I give my fundraiser a title, I pop in a little story, and it's really super simple. Again, if you make an error, it's really easy to click back and say, whoops, this isn't who I wanted to fundraise for. So in terms of being an individual, a fundraiser yourself, it really is pretty simple. So there's things like adding a photo, and there's an optional video, but there's no rewards. I think that's quite key, is there's no rewards. If you don't have an image, we've even selected some for you, so you could pick one that works for you. So I might click this lovely one of some people running, and I could choose that. It makes it really, really easy for me. So that's a little insight, I think, to what fundraisers are met with on the way in.
I might just add in there, the simplicity really is wonderful, I think, both for the fundraiser and the charity, because we've all been there when it's maybe an evening with friends and you think we should do this. And this means that you can really do it in about 2 minutes. And I was guilty of that myself. I am a big National Trust fan, a mega fan. If you're watching at the National Trust, do send me any freebies. But I noticed it was their 125th anniversary, and they were encouraging fundraisers to raise money around the 125 figure. So I decided that I would do 125 quid. So I'd raise that. Sounds very straightforward, not too much of a kind of a difficulty. And I was going to do, at the time I was very into running, so I was going to do 10 kilometers a day for 12 and a half days. So 125 kilometers for 125 quid. I did actually injure my knee, sadly, but I got about 110 pounds. So I didn't quite get to my target, but everything I raised went to the charity. And it was very, very easy, that whole process of just searching and finding that charity that you're onto, and all of the bank details are connected. You don't need any ID. You just get up and start fundraising.
That's it. It's so simple, and I think it's good to mention a couple of bits in the nitty gritty there. So if you're the fundraiser sets a target, they don't need to reach it. It's just a target. So if they want to raise £125, they don't quite reach it. That's okay. The money goes to the charity anyway. There's no need for them to hit that. They don't need to necessarily be in touch with anyone from the charity. They don't need to ask you for bank details, or anything like that. It's already set up basically, and that's through our partnership with the Charities Trust. So if you are registered with the Charities Trust, and you are, then you'll definitely be on the system already. But actually, for charities that are looking to take advantage of this, there's actually a way that you yourselves as a charity can fundraise, and you probably already have a profile on Crowdfunder. If you're registered with the Charities Trust, you might just not even know it, and we've got a really handy way that you can find that out. Do you want to take us through that, Bertie?
Yeah, so I'll just show you quickly so that it doesn't stop you in your tracks when you're kind of all geared up to fundraising. So I'm just sharing my screen with you. How charities can use Crowdfunder. We'll pop the link in the chat box. But essentially, you have the opportunity. This is where, as Sammy showed you, you can crowdfund in response to coronavirus, or your crowdfunding in general, just through a normal rewards-based crowdfunding system, which we'll come on to in a moment. This is the search box that we looked at earlier, how you find your charity. So when I was geeking out on the National Trust, I could see quickly that was available for me. But if I was kind of very excited to do the fundraising, I couldn't find the charity I was after, I just scrolled down to this section, not showing up in search, start adding your charity now. And you really can, anyone can do that. Just put in all the details there and fire it off. And we've got a team working behind the scenes to make this as kind of streamlined and quick as possible.
Yeah, and I think that's particularly important for maybe those pretty new or quite small charities, so particularly very local ones, where, you know, perhaps you haven't, you know, you're not involved with the Charities Trust and you might not be on Crowdfunder already. So we'll basically then, once you fill out that form, go through the process of getting all the details that we need with you, getting all that information and setting that up. Now, it's not a super quick process. Just to warn you, it's not going to happen, you know, overnight, just like that. So there is another option which is available for you if you want to get started quickly. And actually, even if you have already got a Charities Trust registration and you are already set up and ready for fundraising, it might be that you want to do some rewards crowdfunding anyway. So let's have a look at one of those. We've got a favorite. Well, it's one of my favorites anyway. I've been there, which always helps. But I think this is a really good example, isn't it, of someone, a big charity who did decide to go down the rewards route.
Yeah, because I think like you said, with crowdfunding, this is something that we are seeing with the biggest charities and the smallest charities. So it's very much a progressive but popular form of finance. So this was English Heritage, who back in 2017 were crowdfunding because they wanted to really make the most of their wonderful supporter to database. And they had a local project, which is the Iron Bridge, the industrial icon, which is based in Shropshire. And this needed kind of a whole kind of scheme of renovation and different works. The total actual cost of the project was much more than the actual kind of £50,000 that they raised, but they used crowdfunding as a vehicle to really engage their supporters, because offering rewards enabled them to have a kind of deeper relationship with their supporter base. So ordinarily, they might be receiving their donations. And for a rewards-based campaign, you absolutely can still receive donations and collect all the gift aid on that. But it also gives you the opportunity to offer a range of different pledging opportunities at various different price points, which will appeal to different types of people in your audience. And we always work in kind of numbers and averages here at Crowdfunder. And we know that the average amount donated to a charity on the website is £20, and the average amount pledged on a reward is £50. So this is a kind of a really interesting way of encouraging people to give more if they'd like to. And we break rewards down into kind of 4 different categories. These are products and services, experiences and events, sponsorship and membership, and a general thank you. So you can imagine from the English Heritage perspective, sponsorship and membership was a very valuable tool to use, because the opportunity here was they got 911 supporters in 30 days. So that is potentially 911 new members where there's a more kind of lifetime value to that particular pledge. But they were also able to kind of collaborate with local designers. You might be familiar with Paul Catherall, who's the famous artist who does a lot of kind of Wish You Were Here, Great Britain, traveling artwork. He put together this image of the Iron Bridge there, and that was available as a signed print on tote bags and on postcards. And there are many more opportunities besides this to get involved. Whereas if you're an engineering enthusiastic, you can have your own private tour. You were able to become a member, get a tote bag, many different rewards. And essentially the value in this is in the preparation of a campaign is to focus on your audience and think about what they would like in return. And the whole rewards process means that as a charity, you can learn a huge amount about your audience, because the donation model is very kind of one way and binary. Rewards tells you what people are interested in, what messaging do they support. And as a charity, besides all the kind of gift aid information you'll get and be able to run through with HMRC yourself on donations, you'll have a breakdown on which rewards you've got. And that might inform future marketing or messaging in the future.
Yeah, and I think, I've been working with charities who've been crowdfunding for around about 7 years now with Crowdfunder. And I think at the start, a lot of charities really struggled to grasp what they would give as a reward. They didn't have sort of an obvious product. It was sort of, it seemed quite out of reach for them to be able to run a rewards-based crowdfunder. But over the years, it's become something really common. And I think part of that is putting aside the initial reaction of going, I don't have any rewards, this isn't going to work for us. And actually working to think about what you could collaborate on with, as Bertie mentioned, artists, with designers, with sort of, sponsors, patrons, and people who, support what you're trying to do, and offering them, speaking to them about things that they can offer to your audience in return. I, when I'm not at Crowdfunder, also run my own business, and I've been asked to contribute rewards to good causes that have been crowdfunding in the past. And every time I go for it, because for me, it's a great way to show my audience that my business is behind this cause. And in terms of what it sort of costs me to donate product, it's a lot less than it would cost me to donate the money. So it's a good option. And it means that the audience of that cause also gets to see my business where they might not have heard of me before. So it's a really good way to tap into those connections and actually find things that you can offer in return. And I think a lot of this comes down to a bit of sort of, I guess, the core of crowdfunding theory, doesn't it, Bertie, in terms of why people support campaigns?
Yeah, we know that the reasons why people support campaigns falls into kind of three different categories. The first being is that they simply think you're doing some good in the world, or maybe in their area, and they're happy to give money expecting nothing in return. The second being that they have a relationship with yourselves or are affiliated with your charity or in some way that they would give to support you. Or the third kind of ring of why they'd support you would be through because they purely just want the reward available. For one funny reward I forgot to mention on the English Heritage campaign was they did another one to restore 2 castles, and this was last year, and there was an opportunity to fire a cannon for £1,000, and someone pledged £1,000 to fire one of the cannons. So money
that is
can't
a
buy.
Brilliant reward. Yeah. How often do you get an opportunity to fire a cannon?
Not often, I don't think.
I would say I've actually never heard of that before.
Yeah, well, I think the secret of rewards is you don't put up rewards just in hope. You're really combing through your network to think who's going to pledge on that, and you might have floated the idea previously to think about whether there's any value in doing so. But the whole kind of crowdfunding process will kind of teach you a lot about your audience. And as to what Sammy said about contributing rewards, think about crowdfunding as the most social exercise you'll ever do, because we've all got these contacts, relationships, partnerships, but what do they really mean? Everyone really, if it's a good cause, has an opportunity to help. And that, as Sammy said, is not always for free. Just sponsorship or a part of featuring on the page itself. The English Heritage campaign, that was 900 supporters. We work on another average, so the 1 in 20 people who view your page make a pledge. So if you do a quick bit of maths, which I know Sammy's already done, it's 18,000 page views. So that means that any affiliated business or brand who wants to be part of that kind of story has that kind of exposure. So there's absolutely kind of more ways to offer rewards than the conventional product route.
Sure. And it does, you don't have to have tons either, I think is the thing. Obviously, the example we've given, they had quite a few different ones, but there's nothing wrong with just having, one or two, just a handful that gives people the opportunity. If they'd like to get a reward, then they can, but they can still just donate.
Exactly. And it's not rewards just for having the sake of it. That's not what we mean. It's really a focused exercise to understand what might increase someone's opportunity to pledge.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you said, we don't all have a cannon lying about that we can get someone to fire, but what's your cannon? What's the thing that you guys can do? What's the cool little thing that you can offer? It might just be an experience that is quite ordinary, if you're around that charity, but for someone else could be really cool. I remember contributing to one with the Wildlife Trust, where they were releasing for the first time in many, many years some wild beavers back into Cornwall, and I actually went along to the beaver release event, and by event I mean I was crouched in a bush getting cramp in my leg while they sort of released this pair of beavers, and they sort of slowly mooched out of their box and plopped into the water. It was pretty magical. It was really cool, but for them that's something that they do all the time, releasing animals. But for me and for the other, a lot of other people there, it was a really, really special moment, and it was pretty amazing, to have been a part of that. It didn't really cost them anything because they were doing it anyway. But it was something that they could offer as a reward.
And a wonderful content spin, because they get to capture all of those days' events, and that feeds out across their social media. And they even had the opportunity to name one of the beavers, which
yes,
unfortunately now is Beaver McBeaverface, but I think it might be Justin Bieber.
Justin Bieber was in the mix as well back then. But I think that's the thing that smart charities get that is less obvious, is that long-term knock-on benefit of having run, a crowdfunding project. And this is the same, many of these elements are the same for if you run a fundraiser. But in terms of access to the data, having that kind of more almost sort of intimate, friendly, more informal relationship that you can get with your supporters through crowdfunding, it sort of invites them into the fold, less than big glossy charity communications. It's a lot more sort of guerrilla. It's more grassroots level is what people see crowdfunding as, and it's a really really smart people that work in charities that actually see this as an opportunity to kind of overcome that donor fatigue that a lot of people are seeing. A lot of the sort of subscription donors tend to be a little bit older, is what we hear, and actually it's tapping kind of a younger audience who are less inclined to go for that sort of monthly donation style of contributing to charities, and they prefer to pick and choose what they want to support when, and they'll do maybe rather than £2 a month, they'll spend £20 once, and that's a lot more of the kind of donor behavior that we see. So a really interesting way to explore those avenues in a very different way from kind of traditional fundraising, I guess.
Yeah, and I think we always talk about the benefits of crowdfunding and advocacy, don't we? And if you imagine, if you give money to someone on the street through fundraising, or you donate to something, that is a flash in the pan method, and it is obviously a wonderful thing to have done. But the legacy of a reward means that you have that kind of pride that you can speak to people about. And I pledged on the English Heritage campaign and got a sticker for my car. So I got an English Heritage sticker on my car that's always going to be there. I'm spreading their message forward, and it was always a really kind of source of pride for me, as someone who has wanted to kind of label themselves as an English Heritage supporter.
And that's to go next to your 10 National Trust stickers, right? Yeah,
exactly. It's a bit of a hazard.
Yeah,
just about see-through.
So I think one of the things we should probably mention is, again, talking about the nitty-gritty, is the differences in fees. Now, what we mean by fees, first of all, is the money that is charged of the amount that you receive. So there's no upfront fee. I think that's really important. There's no fee to register. There's no fee, to start a project. Essentially, if you, don't receive any money through crowdfunding, then neither do we. It's very much works in that way. So we've talked about a few different models. What I'm going to do is actually just put a link to the fees in the chat channel now, because I think it's much easier to see it broken out, written down, than it is for us to go through it. But we'll give you the headlines. Paste this in now. Multitasking. There we go. So if you're an individual or a group, so we're talking about these fundraisers, you know, matey next door, someone who wants to raise, you know, 100 quid, whatever, you know, climb a mountain, raise you some money. So there's no fee on that at all. So there's no platform fee for using Crowdfunder, and there is no transaction fee either. We also handle the gift aid on the way through, and that's all through Charities Trust. And all of that money, so that the total amount that you see raised, you will receive all of that. So there's nothing taken at all. Similarly, if you are raising money as a charity using the Charities Trust product, so we're talking about donation only, that's also 0 fees. So we've got 0, 0, 0, 0 so far. Hopefully you're still with me. The exception is if you are crowdfunding with rewards. So there is a fee if you're crowdfunding with rewards. So there's a 3% platform fee, and then there's also a small fee by the payment gateway that takes all the card payments, which is Stripe, which you may or may not have heard of, but they're the biggest one. And that does vary depending on where the card is based, but it's basically around about 1.67% plus a few pence plus VAT. It becomes quite a complicated sum. So rather than go through that, just check the fees link that I've just put in the chat box. If your brain can handle one more exception, there is an exception to the 3% fee on crowdfunding for rewards, and that is if your project is part of the coronavirus response or has been affected by coronavirus. So that's really important. So if your charity has been affected, if you're raising money for something in response to coronavirus, then there is again no fee, 0 fees, no platform fee, no Stripe fee, no fees. Hopefully that's clear. I'm sorry, I know there's lots of different versions. Should we mention gift aid quickly, Bertie? Do you want to mention a bit about how that works with the different options?
Yeah, so essentially with the Charities Trust model, it's something that you don't need to overthink. It happens automatically and it will be processed through themselves for you. For a rewards-based crowdfunding campaign or for a COVID-related campaign, with rewards, so 0% or 3%, you would process the gift aid yourself. So at the end of your crowdfunding campaign, all the information will be available via download, and this is your supporter data. So who's pledged, who's donated, what details you've requested for an address, maybe for a particular reward, and who's added gift aid to their donation. So that will be all very, very, very clear and succinct. Also, I should mention, it will be very GDPR specific. So you'll know exactly who's contactable beyond the campaign. And then it's up to you to take that data and process it with HMR, see how you as a charity would very much be used to doing anyway. So it's kind of the conventional approach.
I've put a little link in the chat as well that gives a really detailed breakdown of how you claim gift aid through a crowdfunder project. There's 8 steps. It's really sort of exhaustive. If you've not done it before, it makes it really easy for you. But essentially, as Bert said, we collect the declarations. But if you're crowdfunding with rewards, essentially you do the gift aid yourselves. So what I'm going to do, because we've sort of gone through most of the bits I wanted to cover, I think, is we will just open up the floor for any questions for just a few minutes. I think we have had one from Helen. I'm not entirely sure at what point Helen asked this question, so whether exactly what the question is. So Helen's question is, does all this apply if I'm sharing my own project with raising money for a charity as well?
Yeah, I think it Helen, it will depend on which route you've decided to go through. If you're raising money for a charity, then you want their bank account attached to it. So therefore, the Charities Trust vehicle would be the best. So search for the charity, and the link is in the chat box there. If it's not there, you can request it.
I haven't done that in ages. The other thing that I'll do just quickly while we wait to see if any other questions have come in is I'll just share with you our charities coaching and support hub, so you can see what that looks like, and that's where you can get some additional support. So let's have a quick peek, and again I'll put this link in the chat. So what we've got here is specifically a page for charities. There's a free guide which is very much focused on charity fundraisers, along with some FAQs and some really great examples of projects that have charities that have taken different approaches and what that looks like. So for example, if we click on this NHS Charities Together one, we can see a nice summary page that shows us how many different people have set up fundraising projects for the NHS Charities Together, how much they've raised in total, so that's all of the fundraisers, and how many supporters there's been across all of the fundraisers. There's also some quick links there if you want to also fundraise for NHS Charities Together, or if you just want to donate, which you can do here and here, and then we can see, you know, latest activity and things like that across all of the projects that have done that. So good place to look. You'll also, those of you with eagle eyes, have spotted that there is a coming soon here to join our online course. It is coming soon. In fact, I've got it lurking up my sleeve as we speak. So we will have a specific course which is full of quizzes, videos, all sorts of fun stuff that's going to be online really soon. But in the meantime, there is a sort of generic, just rewards-based crowdfunding course that's already up and running that you can tap into, and I'll put a link there as well. We have had another question from Samantha. Can a CIC use this to crowdfund? I'll give that one to you, Bertie.
So you wouldn't use the Charities Trust kind of 0% model because that is purely a database of 20,000 plus charities which are registered through Crowdfunder, where people can either run a campaign for them or fundraise on their behalf. You can certainly run a crowdfunding campaign. We have CICs all the time. And this is for everyone else, the community interest companies out there. You essentially would use the normal rewards-based channel. So if it's COVID related, maybe you are fundraising in response to COVID, trying to kind of recuperate costs, or trying to develop and ensure your sustenance for the years ahead, or you can run a normal 3% rewards-based crowdfunding campaign. The best way, what I'd suggest to do, is have a look on the crowdfunder.co.uk Explore and search with a few of the kind of key terms you'd associate with your project. Our whole website is an archive of what's come before, so you'll be able to see any similar projects and view what you like, what you didn't like, and then make your mind up on how you'd put together an even better campaign.
Yeah, I think that's a really good answer, and I've put the link to Explore there as well. I think that's a really good thing to mention, is that the biggest indicator for us of when a project is going to be really successful and do well is when you look at how many previous projects they've looked at. Honestly, that is the best way for us to tell which are going to be the really strong ones, because the people that spend the time looking at what's gone before them, looking at what people did well, what could have been improved, they run really great campaigns, and there's nothing wrong with it. We encourage it. You know, do have a look at all these other people who have done it first. You know, learn from their successes and from their mistakes. And I think that's one of, you know, the best ways to really get your head around it and figure it out. So I think that's all the questions. So we'll probably finish up. What I will say is, if you still have any questions at the end of this, or think of something later on, you can definitely contact our awesome support team. They're super friendly and lovely, I promise, and they're always happy to hear from anyone. And their support at crowdfunder.co.uk. You can get in touch with them, and I'll put just a link to how you can do that as well, and also the help centre, because that has a ton of questions in there. So we'll probably wrap up by saying thank you for joining us on this sunny afternoon, and we do hope to see you raising some money on Crowdfunder soon.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Goodbye.